and welcome to the Magic Lair. If you're a first-time viewer, feel free to hit the subscribe button, and if you like this content, please slap that like button for me. Today we are going to learn to play Magic the Gathering, the short version.
Okay, here we go. The short version.
Because the last video I made was about an hour long. If you'd like to see that one, I'll put a link up here or over here, somewhere around here. And I'll put a link in the description for you also if you'd like to see the long version. But today we're going to be playing with this deck of cards, and I'm going to be teaching you how to get the basics of Magic the Gathering. So you just want to basically, this is kind of a mash shuffle. You just want to take your cards and kind of mash them together, holding them lightly, and then push them together like that. There's a few different ways you can shuffle, but once you have your cards, we'll get right into how to play the game so you can learn in less than 10 minutes. We want to get this done quickly because I know you want to get out there and start playing. So let's move to our other camera over here. All right, to make this easier to follow along, let's keep in mind that each player is going to start with 20 life. Unless you are playing Commander, you will start with 40 life. So we're just going to remember that the steps of each turn are going to go in order as untap, upkeep, draw. You're going to get a main phase, a combat phase, another main phase, and then you'll have an end step. And whenever you go to a new step, your opponent will also have an opportunity to respond by casting a spell or doing some other effect with their cards if they want to. So just keep that in mind when you go to another step of your turn, to let your opponent know I'm going to my combat phase, I'm going to my end step, whatever it is you're doing, just to give them an opportunity to respond if they need to. All right, now with that said, let's get into the short version of how to play Magic the Gathering. All right, now that we have our deck shuffled, first thing you need to do is draw your 7 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So we have our 7 cards here. Now, normally, the person that goes first will not draw a card, but there are some formats where you will draw a card. So the first thing you want to do on your first turn is draw a card. So we're going to draw a card for our turn. So now we have 8 cards. Now on your end step, you usually have to discard down to 7 cards, but we have some cards we can use, so we won't have to do that. I'm just going to organize these. All right, so after your draw phase, you have your main phase. Now during your main phase, you can play lands like these, and you can cast spells like these other cards. Now a land card is easy to decipher because it says land right here, and here's our other land card, and it says land right here. Now lands are played and spells are cast, okay? And you're allowed to play 1 land per turn unless stated otherwise. So we're going to play our 1 land per turn. It looks like we have a few things we can do. I'm just going to play this forest for my land. And now looking at our cards, this is going to tap, which means you turn it sideways. That's how you signify that you're using the card. So when you use a land, you tap it and you get 1 mana. So we're going to tap it. We have 1 mana. We have a card here that costs 1 mana. It has a number 1, which means we can use 1 mana of any color for this card. We also have another card here that has 1 black pip, which means we can use 1 black, which is produced by swamps. This is a forest, which produces green, and we could use that for this Birds of Paradise, which costs 1 green mana. And so far, that's all we have. So I'm going to go ahead and cast this Soul Ring right here. This costs 1 of any color, and it taps for 2 colorless, which means you can use the 2 colorless for any of the number symbols, like this one here. This is 3 of any color, which you can use colorless also. So we're going to tap the green. We're going to put out our Soul Ring. Now we can tap this right away for 2 colorless, and we have another artifact which we can cast for 2. And this one taps for 1 mana of any color that an opponent can produce. Since we don't really have an opponent in this example, we're just not going to use it this turn. But these are both artifacts, and they are signified by the card type right here. This is where you're going to find your card type, and this is where you're going to find your card name, and this is the amount to cast the card. So our artifacts are out, and now we don't really have anything else we can do, so we're going to pass the turn to our opponent, and after they take out their turn, we will go to our second turn. The second turn is going to be important because we're going to have our first untap phase. Untap is the first phase of a turn, and then after the untap, you have an upkeep phase where you can take care of some abilities that cards have. They will specifically say to do during your upkeep. We don't have any of those now, so after the upkeep, we'll go directly to our draw step, and we're going to draw another land. This one is a land, and it's an island, which produces a blue mana. So we're going to put down our island, and now we can look at what cards can we cast with the current mana. We could actually use 1 mana from this artifact, 2 from that artifact, so that's 3, and a green from our forest. So that's going to give us the ability to cast this creature, which is an Urnam Djinn. It's a summon type spell. So summon spells are creatures, and they also show in the bottom corner their power and toughness. The first number is how much damage it attacks with, and the second number is how much damage it can block before dying. Well, if it does block 5 damage, it's dead. So anything under the 5 damage, it will survive. So this one actually has an upkeep trigger, which is in the text box here. It says during your upkeep, target non-wall creature an opponent controls gains Forest Walk until your next turn. Ignore this effect if there are no legal targets. So that is an upkeep trigger, and we'll put our creature right over here, and then we'll pass to our opponent's turn. Since we're not going to do anything else on our turn, you would normally be able to attack with this creature, but not on the turn it comes into play, because it has what we call Summoning Sickness. So we have the 4 cards in our hand, so when we go to our end step, we don't have to discard any cards. And now our opponent will take their turn, and we can, once they're done, do our untap phase again for our turn. So we're going to untap everything that's tapped. We will untap it. And then directly after the untap step, we have our upkeep. So I would give one of the opponent's creatures Forest Walk, which means if I own a forest, which I do, I cannot block that creature. So now after we've done our upkeep step, we're going to draw our card, and we got this creature. It has a huge block of text, but basically what this says is when I cast this creature, I can copy any other creature in play, and during my upkeep, I can choose to change the target creature that it copies. So this costs 3 of any color plus 2 blue. That's pretty crazy. So we also have a few other things. We have this, which is a copy artifact, and this I can select any artifact in play, so either of these or an artifact that an opponent controls, and I can make a copy of that. We also have another creature here. This costs 1 black, and it's a flying creature, which means flying creatures can only be blocked by other creatures with flying. So this has flying, and it can block creatures with flying and creatures on the ground. Like this creature here does not have flying, so he's on the ground. We have another flying creature that costs 1 green. This is Birds of Paradise, and it taps for 1 mana of any color, so very useful. Even though it's not very strong, you can see here it's a 0 power and only 1 toughness. It does give you extra mana. And then we have our swamp. So I'm going to play my land for turn. We get our 1 land per turn, and I'm going to pay this swamp here. And then I'm going to use my black mana from my swamp to cast this Will-o'-the-Wisp. And then let's move these artifacts over out of the way a little bit. And then I will play green from my forest to cast this Birds of Paradise. Now, I still have 2 mana here and 1 mana here. I'm going to use this 2 mana, and then I'll use this island, and I'm going to put out the copy artifact. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just copy this Felbar Stone. So now it's essentially the same card as that. And now also that my creature, let's move this over, my Djinn here does not have Summoning Sickness anymore, I can tap him and attack. So when you attack, you tap your creature, showing that you're attacking. Although when you block, you do not tap it, okay? So I'm going to attack my opponent for 4. And we both start at 20 life. So unless you're playing Commander, which is another format, you would start at 40 life. So we're at 20 life. I'm going to attack him for 4. That puts him down to 16. And then I'll pass the turn back to him. He'll do whatever he has to do. Let's say I block with this Flying Will-o'-the-Wisp, and he has a black source to produce mana. I can use my Felwar Stone to regenerate my creature. And when you regenerate a creature, it prevents it from dying. And when you do that, you must tap that creature. So we're going to just pretend that's what happened. And then on my turn, we're going to do the untap step again. So let's try to remember. Untap. And then what? Upkeep. So upkeep, I have to choose one of his creatures, give them Forest Walk. So I will pretend to give one of his creatures Forest Walk. And then we go to our draw step. We got a Juggernaut. This is an artifact, but it's also a creature, which it says right here. It is a artifact creature, and its power is 5, and its toughness is 3. So it's a 5/3. It costs 4, and it must attack each turn if possible. So you don't get a chance to decide with this creature. If you know that attacking is going to end up with him blocking it and destroying it, you're just going to have to attack and let it go. So we do have that. And I want to do one more. Let's draw one more card. We have a Wheel of Fortune. Okay, so Wheel of Fortune is a sorcery. Now this is a non-permanent spell, which means when you cast a spell, it does not stay out on the board. This spell actually would go into your graveyard, which is over here. This is also where creatures would go if they were destroyed. They go in your graveyard. So we're going to just play this spell real quick. We're going to say this. Actually, we're going to say this Birds of Paradise will give us a red mana, and then we're going to tap the Soul Ring for 2 colorless, so we have 2 and a red. Cast this spell, which says all players must discard their hands and draw 7 new cards. So I'm going to get rid of these 2 creatures. I'm going to draw 7 new cards. Ooh, okay. So now we have a whole new handful of cards to play with all of our lands and mana, and it makes the game a lot more interesting when you have a handful of cards to play. So anyway, those are the basic steps. You get your opponent down to 0, and that is it. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this up because I think you got the main idea. Alright guys, if you enjoyed that demonstration of how to play Magic the Gathering, please slap that like button for me. And if you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button because I'm going to be putting out more content. Leave me a comment. Let me know. We don't have enough people interacting with these comments down here, so I need you to put down your opinions. Was the video good, bad, helpful, all that kind of stuff. And until next time, adios.